Conflict resolution. John Musgrave. Welcome. Appreciate your taking this class and appreciate you reading through the textbook. And we're going to take a few minutes just to kind of walk through the textbook. We're going to provide 3, maybe 4 videos that'll just kind of highlight some of the main points of this class and this course. Ken Sande, in his book, The Peacemaker, says peacemakers are people who breathe grace. Ken Sande would say that his approach to peacemaking provides a simple but yet comprehensive way to resolve conflict. Because this approach is solidly based in the scriptures, it can be used in every type of conflict. It can be used in our daily walk where seemingly smaller conflicts might arise, or it might be able to be used in the deeper conflicts that many of us don't want to necessarily get involved in. This approach that Ken Sande gives is based on what he calls the 4 G's, 4 basic principles. First of all, glorify God. Biblical peacemaking is motivated and guided by a deep desire to bring honor to God by revealing the reconciling love and power of Jesus Christ. Glorify God. The second G is get the log out of your eye. Attacking others only invites counterattacks. This is why Jesus teaches us to face up to our own contributions to a conflict before we focus on what others have done. The second G, get the log out of your eye. The third G, gently restore. When others fail to see their contributions to a conflict, we sometimes need to graciously show them their fault. The third G, gently restore. The fourth G, go and be reconciled. Finally, peacemaking involves a commitment to restore damaged relationships and negotiate just relationships. Gently restore. Through the gospel, the foundational G, the Lord enables us to live out the 4 G's of peacemaking. The primary focus of this class, this book, will be on how God can help you as an individual Christian throw off worldly ideas about resolving conflict and become a true peacemaker. We'll be looking at several things, and I'll only be highlighting these in these videos, but your text, of course, goes into much more detail. But how to use conflict as an opportunity to demonstrate the love and the power of Jesus Christ. When is it appropriate to simply overlook an offense? How do I change attitudes and habits that maybe actually lead to conflicts? When do I confess wrongs? How do I do that honestly and effectively? How do I negotiate a reasonable agreement? How to deal with people who refuse to be reasonable? And is it ever appropriate? When is it appropriate for a Christian to go to court? As you learn to draw on God's grace and deal with these issues in a biblical way, you can follow an entirely new approach to resolving conflict. That first G, glorify God. How can I please God and honor God in this situation? The Word of God says, so whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God. Focusing on God is the key to resolving conflict constructively. When we remember His mercy and draw on His strength, we invariably see things more clearly and respond in a much more biblical and a much more godly way. Glorify God. Glorifying God is so important and such a key as we deal with conflict. When we glorify God, I believe we're saying, I'm going to trust God. Instead of relying on my ideas or my abilities, I'm going to rely on His knowledge, His wisdom. I'm going to ask Him to give me the grace to depend on Him and follow His ways, even if they're completely the opposite of what I might feel like doing. Not only am I going to trust God, but I'm going to honor God. I'm going to obey God. One of the most powerful ways to glorify God is to simply do what He tells you to do. And if I'm going to glorify God, I'm going to imitate God. I'm going to ask God Jesus, how might he handle this situation? How might he handle this situation? If he was sitting at the table, what would he be saying? What would he be doing? I'm going to glorify God. I'm going to imitate God. And then I'm going to acknowledge God. I'm going to allow him to be a part of the process. I'm going to, each step of the way, acknowledge, God, you're here. You're here to help. You're here to guide. Every time you encounter a conflict, you inevitably show what you really think of God. If you want to show that you love him with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your strength, then you're going to help. You're going to ask him for help. Ask him to help you trust, obey, imitate, and acknowledge him. This behavior honors God and shows others how worthy he is of your devotion and praise. This principle, when we glorify God, when we seek to please and honor God, when we ask him in this particular conflict to say, God, I want you to be honored, it allows the riches of God's love to be displayed. It allows the riches of God's grace to be displayed, and it allows the riches of his power to be displayed as we simply glorify God. Yes, the 4 G's of peacemaking. Opportunities. Glorify God. Get the log out of your own eye. Gently restore, and go and be reconciled.